So I was thinking about how Manchester United could spend £110 million that they want to spend on Gyokeres and Mbeumo in a more efficient and less risky way. And so in this video I'm going to explain how United could use that money to bring in 3 centre forwards who, under the right circumstances, I could see any one of them hitting 20 Premier League goals next season, or at least 16 to 18 if we're being a bit more conservative. And one of those options is a player that I think a lot of people have forgotten about, but after analysing him both from the eye test statistically and how he fit into Amorim's system, I am actually starting to think that he could be a better option than Victor Gyokeres, whilst also potentially being available in a Rashford swap deal or on loan for about £8 million. Now before I tell you who that specific player is, let me tell you how United could spend £110 million and likely £20 to £24 million salaries that they look like they are going to spend on Mbeumo and Gyokeres. So first of all, I'd bring in Canyon Lee, a 2025 Bernardo Silva regen, who I have made an analysis video on already, showing you both tactically and statistically why I think he suits that role as a right-sided interior forward ahead of Ahmad better than Mbeumo. So I'll leave that linked in the eye above for you to check out, but he should be attainable for around £30 to £33 million. Now, considering the obsession with Premier League proven players, I think both Yoane Wissa and Mateta are players that United should be considering, because combined they'd probably be available for less than what Gyokeres would cost on his own, with my valuation of Wissa being around £15 million given that he has 1 year left on his contract, and Mateta's being around 35. Now Mateta would be the starting centre forward, alternating with the player who is the topic of today's video, with Yoane Wissa, if there is space in the squad to bring him in, being able to play a versatile backup forward role, being able to play in the 3 positions across the front line, and also the perfect impact player off of the bench when United is chasing a goal against a deep block and need a poacher like Wissa inside of the box. And when you see Wissa and Mateta's goal scoring record over the past 2 seasons, it's hard to deny that they are excellent value for money. But before I show you those stats, as well as telling you who my Gyokeres alternative would be, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. They've got a variety of different new season jerseys, including the Manchester United jerseys when they do come out, as well as a variety of different retro shirts as well, including this Manchester United 2006-2007 long-sleeved home shirt with Ronaldo number 7 on the back, which they did actually send me alongside this PSG Anelka shirt from the 95-96 season. If you use code ATLANTIS30 at checkout, you will get 30% off of all orders over $100. Or alternatively, you can just use code ATLANTIS at checkout and you will get a 10% discount. So I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comments section below. So Yoane Wissa has scored 31 non-penalty goals in the last 69 Premier League games, whilst Mateta has hit 30 in 72. And the player who today's video is about has also played in the Premier League, and during his 1 full season was scoring at a rate of 0.48 per 90, which like Mateta and Wissa would give him a goal scoring record in the early 30s, scaled up for around 70 games played. And the key to this deal would be Marcus Rashford. My idea is, why not offer Barcelona a loan swap deal with Ferran Torres, who I'm now convinced is secretly an elite level centre forward, and when I show you some of the important metrics in his FBref reports over the past few years, as well as analysing his movement and how complete his overall game is, you're going to see why. See, Rashford is 28 in October and has a contract until 2028, whilst Ferran Torres turned 25 in February and has a contract until 2027. Torres hasn't been a regular starter for Barcelona either, playing just over 1,921 minutes in all competitions this season, just over 1,100 in La Liga, which may seem like a concern, but once you consider Barcelona's front 3 is Lewandowski, Rafinha and Yamal, I mean really that would probably be the case for the likes of Gyokeres and Mbeumo as well. Now Ferran Torres' basic goals and assist stats do look fairly impressive, with 19 and 7 respectively this season, but they're nothing special on initial first glance. That is, however, until you look at his per 90 metrics that I think show that Barcelona's reported £42 million asking price is an absolute bargain, and you're going to see them in just a minute. But from the eye test, what I initially liked about Ferran Torres, and which is also backed up by the stats, is that he has one of the most complete skill sets of any centre forward around, which is most probably down to him having played most of his career as a wide attacker in an inside forward role and being converted to a centre forward this season, so he's able to link play highly efficiently with his back to goal, not doing so in physical battles like Mateta, but more through sharp movements away from the centre back, dropping off into the space before having the technical ability to subtly lay off passes that he receives. But like Mateta, Torres also has the ability to provide movement in behind the centre backs as as well, and from the eye test you can see that he has that Jamie Vardy-like ability to position himself optimally between the two defenders, sitting right on the shoulder, the perfect position to receive any through balls or passes across the face of goal, wherefrom over the last year or so we've seen him become more clinical than he had been in previous years, and this is reflected by how composed and confident he is with his finishing off of both feet, but it's also seen statistically with his FBref metrics as well. So over the past 365 days, when compared against every other forward in Europe's top 5 leagues, Ferran Torres ranks in the 95th and 94th percentile for his non-penalty goals and his non-penalty XG, scoring at a rate of 0.76 per 90, an overperformance of 0.12 per 90, ranking in the 86th percentile for that particular metric. Now in the Champions League, in the 426 minutes he's played this season, you can see that he is slightly underperforming his non-penalty XG, but still was scoring at a rate of 0.63 per 90, ranking in the 82nd and 91st percentiles for those metrics respectively. Whilst domestically in La Liga, in the just over 1100 minutes he played, he ranked in the top 1% for both of his goal scoring metrics as well. But also, going back through his previous seasons, you can see that when he was predominantly being used as a wide attacker, he was still recording a very high non-penalty goals and non-penalty XG rate in both La Liga and in the Champions League. And at this point, he still wasn't really a regular starter for Barcelona. In fact, even in his only full Premier League season for Manchester City back in 2020-2021, he was still ranking in the 85th to 95th percentile range for both his non-penalty goals and non-penalty XG, which clearly shows us that Ferran Torres has always been a high-scoring inside forward, but playing for Manchester City and Barcelona, where he hasn't really been a consistent starter and hasn't played more than 1,400 minutes in a league season, he seems to have massively flown under the radar. And his conversion to a centre forward this season has meant that not only his non-penalty XG and non-penalty goal rates have increased significantly due to him picking up better goal scoring positions, but even though he wasn't a high volume dribbler, ball carrier or progressive passer as a wide player, which can be seen from his passing and possession sections of his FBref report in La Liga in 23-24, as a centre forward he's arguably one of the most creative around, with his XG assisted and passes into the penalty area ranking in the low to mid 90th percentiles. And this is also reflected when watching Torres as well. I actually think that Ferran Torres' body style and technical ability could actually see him develop into a better link man for the Premier League compared with Victor Gyokeres, because whilst Gyokeres is certainly better than Torres when it comes to linking play in the middle third via receiving direct passes from build-up, as well as running the channels and driving the ball up the pitch, I think Ferran Torres is far better when it comes to linking play in congested areas in and around the box, whilst also actually having better off-the-ball movement, being a little sharper than Gyokeres when it comes to making a dummy run before bouncing back the other way in order to get across or in behind a defender and potentially receive a high-value goal-scoring opportunity. See, there have been concerns by many around Gyokeres' clunkiness and whether that quicker speed of thought and action from defenders in the Premier League will translate with Gyokeres being less effective, and by how much. However, Ferran Torres from the eye test at Barcelona, but also with his prior period at Manchester City, seems to me like he'd probably have a quicker adaptation period than Gyokeres and may actually be a better striker in the Premier League overall, due to Torres being more agile and better in tight spaces. And goal scoring wise, I think you could make a solid case that Ferran Torres is actually more likely to get to 16 to 20 Premier League goals compared with Gyokeres, particularly because I think Gyokeres is far more reliant on shooting opportunities that he can create for himself on the transition compared with his movement in the box against deeper defensive shapes, whereas I think Torres is less dependent on the transition and equally effective in either situation. Both Torres and Gyokeres are statistically two of the most creative forwards around, with their chance creation and progressive passing metrics showing this. However, once again, I think Gyokeres is a lot more reliant on the transition, whereas Ferran Torres' superior playmaking abilities via his ball control, vision, weight and timing of a pass makes him a stylistic blend between Gyokeres and Xerxes, having the agility, fluidity and subtlety in his link play that Gyokeres doesn't have to the same level. Ferran Torres is also 18 months younger than Gyokeres and surely has less concerns over being able to translate his current level to the Premier League given his past at Manchester City, but arguably more importantly his skill set is even more complete than Gyokeres, who himself I would also consider pretty complete. but Torres could also be used across the front line, where from in the interior forward positions, he could play a similar inside forward role to Garnacho, working well alongside Mateta or Xerxes, whose movement towards the ball to link play will drag a centre-back out of the back line, opening up space for Torres to break into a central goal-scoring position, being particularly effective at doing this from the left side. And so even at the same cost, I think you could make an argument for Torres being the better signing, which makes the deal even more appealing when you hear that Barcelona are reportedly asking for just 50 million euros, which is £42 million, which is around what Manchester United value Marcus Rashford at. Ferran Torres is already on £8.5 million a season at Barcelona, and I think Rashford would be prepared to take maybe a £5 million pay cut for next season in order to make the move, with Torres coming to United on around £10 million a season as well, with each loan deal being worth around £8 million for next season and an option to buy at the end of the season for £32 million. You saved yourself around £50 million on the transfer fee this summer, around what Edison would cost, and about £3 million in salary, whilst also getting a younger, technically superior, and arguably a better centre forward who can also play just as well from the left and maybe also from the right as well, alongside having previous Premier League experience for 18 months, where at least goal scoring wise anyway, he was probably as good as Mbeumo has been over the past 18, with Torres' non-penalty goals and non-penalty XG rates for the 2020-2021 season being some statistical evidence for that. And also, the risk is minimal in comparison to Gyokeres. Even if it was an obligation to buy for 32 million, given that he is 18 months younger, even if he does flop like a Roberto Soldado for example, we should still likely be able to get our money back with a loan or two, and then by moving him on in the third or fourth year of his contract. Whereas Gyokeres has substantially more pressure because he's expected to come in and instantly be an elite level centre forward to the standard of someone like Osimhen, and even a run of 5 tough games is going to draw a significant amount of focus with Gyokeres, a lot more compared with Ferran Torres. And so overall, I just think that Ferran Torres is a far better option due to him being equally as effective against high lines or deep defensive blocks, having greater versatility, being Premier League proven as people seem to love. He's 18 months younger and could also see Rashford going the other way and getting him off the wage budget as well, and also a far lower initial and potential cost, reducing the pressure on the player and also the risk with the transfer as a whole, whilst also working to free up funds for other players like Canyon Lee, Wizard and Mateta, who are players who I have got analysis videos on as well, so you can check them out after this video. But let me know what you think of Ferran Torres, and if you want to pick up any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to dragonjersey.com. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a 10% discount. So I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below, and if you want to sign up to my Patreon to read any of my articles or to get access to the discussion Instagram group chat, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.